I've been driving Highway 93 through Nevada for close to 30 years. Hundreds of trips, thousands of miles. I've stopped at diners that no longer exist, filled up at gas stations that are now just concrete slabs, and slept in more roadside motels than I could ever count. Most of them blurred together. The same scratchy bedspreads, the same vending machine hum, the same ceiling you stare at when you can't sleep. But there is one place I still think about. One stop I made 3 years ago that I have never fully explained to anyone. Not my wife, not my doctor, not the deputy I eventually called. Because every time I try to put it into words, it sounds either too ordinary or too impossible. And I'm still not sure which one scares me more. It was late October. I was driving back from a job site outside of Ely. I work in industrial equipment. Been doing it since my early 40s, and I was maybe 4 hours from home when the weather turned bad. Not just rain, the kind of rain that makes the road in front of you disappear in sheets. I had my hazards on for 20 minutes before I finally saw a sign for a place called the Desert Rest Inn, hand-painted, sun-bleached. The arrow was pointing down a 2-lane road that ran perpendicular to the highway. I almost didn't take it. Something about the sign bothered me, though I couldn't tell you why. But the rain was getting worse, and I was 61 years old and too tired to be driving in conditions like that. So I turned. The motel was maybe half a mile off the highway. Single story. 12, maybe 14 units in an L shape around a gravel lot. There was one other car parked there, an older model Jeep with Utah plates pulled up close to the office. The vacancy sign was on, just barely. The V kept flickering in a way that made it look like it was trying to say something else. The office was small, paneled walls, a radio playing something country and old. The man behind the desk was probably mid-60s, thin, with the kind of face that doesn't change expression easily. He looked up when I walked in, but didn't say anything right away, just waited. I asked for a room. He slid a paper card across the counter, not a digital key, an actual card with a room number written on it in ballpoint pen. Room 9. He told me it was $48, cash only. There was a handwritten note taped to the register that said the same thing. Cash only, no exceptions. I paid. He gave me a key on a plastic fob, the old kind, shaped like a diamond, and told me checkout was at 10. That was the entire conversation. Room 9 was near the end of the row. I parked in front of it, grabbed my bag, and got inside. The room was exactly what you'd expect. 2 queen beds, a dresser bolted to the wall, a TV from maybe 2003, and a bathroom with grout that had turned gray. The heating unit under the window rattled like it had a rock inside it. The curtains were thick and brown, and didn't quite meet in the middle. I got ready for bed, turned the TV on low just for noise, and was probably asleep within 20 minutes. I woke up at 2:17 in the morning. I know the exact time because I looked at my phone immediately. I'm not sure what woke me. There was no loud noise, no door slamming, just a feeling. The particular kind that makes you lie completely still before you even open your eyes. The TV had turned off on its own. The room was dark except for the thin strip of parking, lot light coming through the gap in the curtains. And from the room directly next to mine, room 10, I could hear something. Footsteps, slow, back and forth. The kind of pacing you do when you're waiting for something. Now, I'm not someone who panics easily. I told myself it was just another guest who couldn't sleep. I told myself the walls were thin, and old motels carry sound in strange ways. But the pacing didn't stop. It went on for what felt like 15 minutes, consistent, almost rhythmic, and then it did stop. And what replaced it was worse. Silence. And then very quietly, what sounded like someone pressing their ear against the wall between our rooms. I sat up. I didn't turn the light on. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe. I just sat there in the dark listening, and after a moment, I heard breathing. I know how that sounds. I know. But I've replayed it enough times that I'm certain of what I heard. Slow, steady breathing. Just on the other side of the drywall. Maybe 18 inches from where I was sitting. I picked up the room phone and called the front desk. It rang 7 times before the man answered. I told him I thought someone was in the room next to me and that I could hear them against the wall. There was a pause, and then he said very flatly, "Sir, you're the only guest we have tonight." I said, "What about the Jeep in the parking lot?" Another pause, longer this time, and then, "That's been there since Tuesday." It was Friday. I didn't sleep again that night. I sat in the chair by the door with my shoes on and my keys in my hand until the sky started to go pale gray outside. When I walked out at 6 a.m., I looked at room 10. The curtain was pulled back about 2 inches. Not open, just slightly pulled. And there was a handprint on the inside of the glass. Palm flat, fingers spread. I went to the office. The man wasn't there. The door was unlocked, but the room was empty. Radio still on. Coffee still in the pot, like he'd stepped away 30 seconds ago. I left my key on the counter and drove back to the highway without stopping. I did call the county sheriff's office later that afternoon. From a gas station about 60 miles east. I gave them the name of the motel, the location, the description of the Jeep. The deputy took my information and said they'd send someone to check it out. He took my name and number. Nobody ever called me back. 2 weeks later, I tried to look up the Desert Rest Inn online. There was no website, no listing, no reviews anywhere. I eventually found a brief mention of it in a local news archive from 2019, a short article about a traveler from Oregon who had filed a missing persons report after her husband stopped at a motel on Route 93 and never reached their destination. The article named the motel. It was the same one. The case was listed as open. No resolution, no suspect, no explanation. I've taken a different route home ever since, and I don't care how bad the weather gets. I don't care how tired I am. I will drive through the night before I pull off onto a road. I don't know, looking for a sign I can barely read. Some doors you open and nothing happens. Some doors you open and you spend the rest of your life wondering who was standing on the other side.